Okay, thank you very much, everybody. It's getting to 2 o'clock, so we're going to kick off. We may have a shorter than usual show and tell today, but still some really great stuff going on. So we're looking to get through this as soon as possible. Firstly, the meeting is being recorded, so if you don't wish to appear on camera, then please turn your cameras off. We load them up on our public YouTube channel, so they're available for anybody to review afterwards anyway. So we will be recording, so if you're shy, then turn your cameras off. Firstly, thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate it. It's holidays and not very many people around. We know that getting meetings at this particular time is always difficult, but thank you very much for coming. Welcome to our every 3-week show and tell for the digital team, focusing mainly on building the new website. But we will be starting to talk about some other projects that we've got going on, which are a little bit secret squirrel at the moment, but which will be coming up in the next few months. So starting off today, things we're going to talk about. We're going to reinforce our vision. We do this every time, as those who come along quite often will know. We will give our residents more free time by making everything they do with the council faster and easier. And that's that's what we hang everything off, and that's the way that we approach everything that we do. Quickly, what we've done this last 3 weeks, we're going to talk about a number of things. I wanted to talk about some of the things that we're actually wrapping up or which are ongoing as well. So doing lots of stuff with cemeteries and crematoria, reporting of highways problems and public rights of way, some emergency planning stuff, as well as flooding and housing and homes of multiple occupancy, which is some of the things that we're kind of pushing through at the moment, and lots of stuff around schools as well, which MJ is going to talk about. So number of current work streams: waste recycling, schools, registrations, the environment, which is going to sort the environment out, and then our tech backlog, which Colin's going to talk about at the end. So I'm going to pass over now to Dominic, who's going to do a little bit on of updating on the work that we've been doing recently for waste and recycling. Dominic.
Oh, thank you so much, Pete. Next slide, please. So good afternoon, everybody. Just a quick update of what we're doing for waste and recycling. So all the pages we've been working on have all been published now on the main council website. And on the right hand side, you can see some of the templates we've been using. So find your nearest recycling centre, find out when you should bin collection. And we've used a step-by-step guide for just moved in. That was a sort of page that the waste team wanted, because obviously there's a lot of new developments going on in Aylesbury, and they thought it was a good way of linking up some of the content. So we'll monitor that and see how that the take up of that page. One of the things we were looking really at was focusing on putting content on the main council website instead of using redirects to the legacy pages. When we first did the audit, a lot of the pages were just pointed back to legacy. So we've loaded a lot more content on the main council website. And one of the things we need to do is keep the forms on the legacy sites, because they're integrated and it's very difficult to move at this stage. And one of the things we had throughout the project was checking that the content meets the user needs. So we had acceptance criteria when we were writing the pages. So we always checked it against that to make sure they delivered what we said they were going to do. So next slide, please. So like with any end of project, you just have to look at, does it actually deliver? And we've put together some measures of success. Still need to do a bit more work on this, but these are some of the ones we were looking at. So allow users to self-service more. So we're looking at reviewing the feedback that we get on Wagtail, that's our content management system, so we can see what customers are saying about the content. Testing the user journeys to make sure they actually deliver and people finding stuff on the new pages. Things we're also looking at is a reduction in waste calls, so linking up with the customer contact team just to see if the content is actually making a difference, is it reducing calls down, a reduction in page duplication. And one of the things we were looking at that I mentioned last time was completing the Waste and Resources Action Programme web evaluation tool. This is specifically for waste teams, and it's an Excel spreadsheet where you can type in, how many clicks it took to get to certain content, and it gives you a rating, so you can actually see if you've made a difference or not with the new content you've produced. So next slide, please. And one of the things, like with any end of project, is kind of just some of the lessons learned. So for me, it was the regular meetings with the service area, making sure we kept in contact. That would be weekly meetings, engage subject matter experts, prototyping of the new pages to show how they look and they work, and kind of working in collaboration because you're trying to solve a problem, so you need everybody's input. And especially with the waste team, there were subtle differences between the north and south, how they kind of deliver their service. The north is very much done in-house and the south is very much outsourced, so it's a different sort of mindset on delivering that service. And also you can't solve all the issues. Content and revamping it is really good at addressing some of those, but some of it is kind of the alignment of the services, and that's kind of the service reviews and the structure of the teams. So yeah, that's me, and I'll hand across to MJ.
Afternoon, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about schools. I'm the subject specialist for schools. So in the web team, we've chosen a few individuals who are going to look after larger sections of the website, so that when changes are made in one area, we can consider how it's going to affect a different area. Next slide, please. So we're just going to look at the more recent changes that we've made recently. So we continue to publish new and replacement schools content. Changing schools in year were the most recent pages we've published, which we worked closely with the schools team on. Like the rest of the schools web pages, the content has changed to be more focused on tasks, and we've reduced the overall number of pages. Next slide, please. So we also use research and feedback to actually adjust the content as it goes live. So we changed some of the language and updated search settings in the back end based on what search terms users are searching for. We've made timelines clearer and given users a better expectation of likely outcomes, and we'll continue to make tweaks to the pages as things change throughout the school calendar, or if we identify further improvements that can be made. That's me. I think I'm handing over to Louise.
Thank you. Hi there. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the registration service, and we're pleased to say that we've gone live with new pages on the website. So this comprises births, deaths and inquests, so including the coroner service and public health funerals, and marriages, civil partnerships and ceremonies, including venue licensing. And we've also actually moved the existing cemeteries and crematoria pages under our new deaths and inquests section. So we've also published all the registration service pages on the Bucks County Council site as well. Next slide, please. So we looked at the existing page on the Bucks EC site, and we worked closely with the service to look at the different tasks the user wants to carry out when visiting the pages. And together we came up with clear task-based titles to help the users find what they're looking for quickly and easily. And we worked really closely with the service, so we met weekly to review content we'd written, and we made amendments as we went along. So that worked really well, we found. So examples of the different types of task-based user journeys in this pages are register a birth, register a death or stillbirth, find a register office, order birth, death or marriage certificates, license a venue for marriages or civil partnerships. And we also had view the coroner inquest list, registering a religious marriage or civil partnership, and a few more. And we also sign off to other websites rather than duplicating information in certain areas. So for example, in marriages and civil partnerships, we direct users to the Celebrating Bucks microsite for all the ceremony information. And next slide, please. Just a little bit about the presentation. So we use the new location service template for the Find a Register Office page. We just wanted to show where the different register offices are located, so the user can easily find where they are, where they need to go. So if you just click on the marker on the map or the blue link below the map, it takes you straight to that registration office page with all of its contact details. And we also changed the layout and design of some of the pages, such as the registration service fees page. So we decided to use tables to make it a clearer layout, and that makes it a lot easier for the user to sort of glance at it to find the information they're looking for. Me and the registration service. I'll hand over to Jez now to talk about reorganisation and environment content.
Thanks, Louise. So those of you that have come to a few recent show and tells, we've talked quite a lot about content, about writing new pages. I thought it'd be quite interesting just to talk a little bit about how we organise some of that content, some of the thought processes behind it. And this particular bit is focusing on the environment content. Next slide, please, Pete. So, challenge that we have with environment is the term environment is used in several different ways on the existing page. So we've got climate change and sustainability, ecology, that kind of green element of environment. There's also a chunky section about the Buckinghamshire countryside, which is about being outdoors and rights of way and walking and that sort of thing. And we also have a whole section around environmental health, which are particularly things like noise and nuisance and pest control and those sorts of things. So there's a lot of other stuff that got kind of chucked into this section because it didn't really fit anywhere else. So it was a bit of a dumping ground. So this project was really to try and organise that in a slightly more structured way. Next slide, please, Pete. So the first step was we just mapped everything out. So we looked at everything we'd got on the environment page. So the yellow tag tickets along the top are kind of the top level sections within environment, and then all of the pink tickets underneath are the individual pages within that. And you can see there's a real mixture there: noise and nuisance, pest control, trees and hedges, and also some things that question why they were there in the first place: a high-speed rail, mineral and waste plan, etc. Next slide, please, Pete. So, as part of the kind of research on this, we looked at how other councils had structured their content. So, for example, the environmental health. One of the questions is how well recognised is that term by members of the public? Is it something that somebody would naturally know that nuisance is in the environmental health section? And it was interesting to look that different councils have approached it in different ways. You can see on the left there, Dorset have called it environmental health, Durham have called it environmental issues. And I think this is probably something that in due course we'd like to test with residents. So we've perhaps set up some user testing just to see how well recognised some of these terms are. But in the short term, to get us moving, if you can move on, next one, Pete. What we've done is split this content into three main sections. So we're in the process of splitting this into three main sections. So sustainability and climate change, which includes ecology, biodiversity, flooding. Trees and hedges is an interesting one because there are two parts in that. One is about tree planting, which is clearly to do with the environment and sustainability. The other bit of that content was about complaints due to high hedges and overhanging hedges and that sort of thing. And there's a separate section for that, some separate guidance on high hedges that's in the planning section. So we're splitting that content in two. Environmental health, on this draft we call it environmental nuisance, and as I say, that's not necessarily the final terminology for it. We'd like to test that, but fundamentally that's noise and nuisance, pests, dog control, unauthorised encampments. Third section is the Buckinghamshire countryside, which is things like walking, countryside code, getting out and about, that sort of thing. And then there's some other stuff that really is better placed elsewhere on the site. So the HS2 content I mentioned earlier, we're moving that to transport. Food safety and air pollution is really about business safety. So that will move into the business section. And then we've got a few other sections like strategic planning, minerals and waste plan, which are either moved or in the process of moving into planning, which hopefully make the whole thing a little bit more logical. As I say, this is an improvement over what we've got. It's not necessarily the final iteration of it, but nevertheless we're starting to move some of that content around. So you'll see that things may appear in different sections in due course. So that's all I was going to say on that, I think. So over to Colin.
Thanks very much, Jess. I'm going to talk a little bit today about our development, particularly our technical development. Put it on next slide, please, Pete. We've finished the bulk of our migration contract now with our Unboxed and Torchbox. And so we moved on to a different model of working, where we have more time in-house to do the migration work, and part of that is a small but steady stream of development work, which we can rely on from Torchbox. which we've divided up into three different streams. First of which is for updates and emergency support. That's critical issues with the website, making sure that it's up and running, and the public are able to interact with our site, and indeed we are able to make changes on that site. So that's the bare minimum of hosting and emergency support. After that, we have a limited amount of time, development time, with Torchbox each month. And when I say limited, it is very limited. So it's sort of 2 days tech time a month, where we take some of the smaller issues which we've been having, or fixes which we think would make improvement to the site, and bundle those up into those 2 days and try and get some small incremental changes done on a monthly basis. And then the final thing is we have two development sprints per year, which amounts to about 4 weeks of development time, and those are for more large scale projects, which we can take on and work with Torchbox with a little bit more development, a little bit more thought, in a similar way that we have been doing on a sort of continuous basis in the previous couple of years. So obviously this is much more limited than development than we had in the past, but it does allow us to make small incremental changes. New requests can be made via ServiceNow, but they will need to be prioritized against the backlog which we have, of which there is already quite a substantial stack. And really we need to look at the overall gain and the overall benefit for the council as we prioritize these within the streams that we have. Obviously, on top of that, we may also be able to find time to do additional work, funding permitting. And that's really all I have to say about the tech backlog. But it is good that we are able to have this continuous improvement stream moving forward, so that we can fix and make amendments as we need to.
Thank you very much, everybody. If there's some, obviously, as we can see, still some great work going on. I wouldn't call out any particular part of that, but there's some really good stuff. I'm liking the environment information architecture. I think that's been long overdue. There are some really confusing things that are going on in the environment, perhaps not just on our website, but thank you very much to everybody. If anybody has any questions, either put them in the chat or speak up now. Otherwise, we will see you all again in 3 weeks' time. Thank you very much. No, thank you.